They asked him 40 questions, he answered 3. 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, religious leaders brought a woman caught in adultery to Jesus. They had their stones ready. They had their questions prepared. They had the law on their side. They asked him what to do with her, expecting him to either condemn her or contradict Moses. He said nothing. He bent down and wrote in the dirt. They kept pressing. He stayed quiet. Then he spoke one sentence that scattered the entire crowd. Most people never noticed what made him powerful. It wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't say. Back in 1st century Palestine, words were weapons. Religious debates were public spectacles. Pharisees and Sadducees competed to prove who knew Scripture better. Romans used interrogations to trap rebels. Everyone had something to prove. Say the wrong thing and you could be arrested. Say the right thing and you gained followers. The pressure to speak was constant. Jesus did the opposite. When people expected arguments, he told stories. When they demanded answers, he asked questions. When they tried to trap him with words, he stayed silent. And somehow that silence said more than all their talking. Today, we live in the loudest time in human history. Everyone has a platform. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone needs to be heard. You feel pressure to respond to every comment, every text, every criticism. Silence feels like weakness, like you have nothing to say, like you're letting others win. So what did Jesus understand about silence that we've completely forgotten? Look at how he used it. The religious leaders brought him that woman and demanded judgment. The law said stone her, justice demanded punishment. They wanted him to pick a side. He could defend the law or defend the woman. Either way, they had him trapped. Defend the law and he looks cruel. Defend the woman and he contradicts Scripture. He did neither. He stayed quiet, bent down, started writing in the dirt. Nobody knows what he wrote. That's not the point. The point is he refused to play their game. They wanted immediate answers. He gave them space. They wanted to force his hand. He gave them time to think about what they were really asking. Then he stood up and said one sentence. Let the one without sign throw the first stone. One sentence, 7 words. And they all left, starting with the oldest. The ones who had lived long enough to know their own failures. He didn't need a sermon. He didn't need to debate Scripture. He just created enough silence for them to hear their own conscience. This is what most people miss. Jesus wasn't avoiding conflict. He was refusing to waste words where words wouldn't help. The religious leaders didn't want truth. They wanted a trap. You can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. So he stayed quiet until he could say something that actually mattered. Watch how often he does this. Pilate interrogates him before the crucifixion. Question after question. Jesus barely responds. Pilate gets frustrated. Don't you realize I have the power to free you or crucify you? Jesus could have defended himself, could have argued his case, could have tried to save his life with the right words. He stayed mostly silent. Because Pilate wasn't really asking questions. He was performing for a crowd. Or, when the Pharisees tried to trap him about paying taxes to Rome, should Jews pay taxes to Caesar? Say yes, and you're a traitor to your people. Say no, and you're a rebel against Rome. Either way you lose. Jesus asked to see a coin, whose image is on it. Caesar's, then give to Caesar what's Caesar's, and to God what's God's. He didn't answer their question, he reframed it. But first, he made them wait. Made them think. Used silence to shift the entire conversation. This is what we've lost. We think we need to respond to everything immediately. Someone criticizes you online, and you feel compelled to defend yourself right away. Someone asks your opinion, and you give it without thinking. Someone tries to start an argument and you engage because silence feels like conceding. Jesus would say, "You're wasting your words." Most arguments don't need your participation. Most criticisms don't deserve your response. Most opinions don't need to be shared. You're spending your credibility on things that don't matter. There's a reason Jesus spoke in short parables instead of long sermons. A reason he answered questions with questions. A reason he stayed quiet when others would have defended themselves. He understood something about human nature. The more you say, the less people hear. The more you defend yourself, the weaker you look. The more you argue, the more entrenched everyone becomes. Silence does something words can't. It creates space. Space for people to think. Space for them to question themselves. Space for actual truth to land instead of just bouncing off defensive walls. Think about your own life. When was the last time you stayed quiet when you could have spoken? When someone criticized you and you didn't defend yourself? When someone tried to bait you into an argument and you just walked away? Most people can't remember because most people never do it. You feel like you have to respond, have to defend, have to explain yourself, have to make sure everyone knows your side of the story. Jesus would ask, "Why? What are you trying to prove?" And more importantly, to who? He didn't defend himself to Pilate because Pilate wasn't interested in truth. He didn't engage with religious leaders trying to trap him because they weren't asking in good faith. He didn't explain himself to crowds that wanted a political revolutionary because they wouldn't have understood what he was actually doing. The people worth speaking to got short, powerful statements. Everyone else got silence or questions. This is what silence does. It forces other people to fill the space. And what they fill it with tells you everything. The religious leaders filled the silence with their own guilt and walked away. Pilate filled it with frustration that Jesus wouldn't play his game. The crowds filled it with confusion because they expected something different. Your silence will do the same. Stay quiet when someone tries to bait you into an argument and watch what happens. They'll either escalate, proving they weren't interested in dialogue anyway, or they'll back off, realizing their words don't have the power they thought they did. Don't respond to every criticism. Don't defend every accusation. Don't explain yourself to everyone who questions you. Save your words for people who are actually listening. For moments that actually matter. For truths that need to be spoken. Jesus could have talked his way out of crucifixion. He was brilliant. He could have debated the charges, could have explained the misunderstandings, could have made his case to the crowd. He stayed mostly silent, not because he couldn't defend himself, because his defense wasn't the point. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to speak. Refuse to engage. Refuse to waste words where words won't help. That takes more strength than any argument ever will. You're surrounded by noise. Everyone talking. Everyone posting. Everyone needing to be heard. And you feel pressure to add your voice to it, to make sure you're not forgotten, to prove you have something valuable to say. Jesus spoke less than almost anyone in his position would have. And 2,000 years later, his words still shape billions of lives. Not because he said more, because he said less. But every word carried weight because he wasn't throwing them around carelessly. Your words have power, but only if you use them sparingly. Only if you let silence do the work that words can't. Only if you stop feeling like you need to fill every gap with your voice. Most of what you want to say doesn't need to be said. Most arguments you want to win don't need to be fought. Most defenses you want to make don't need to be offered. Learn to be quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, because what you have to say is too important to waste on people who aren't listening. The woman caught in adultery walked away free because Jesus knew when to stay silent and when to speak. You can do the same. Stop talking just to fill the air. Start speaking only when your words can actually change something. More forgotten wisdom next time.